Hello, everybody. It's me, the dayvan cowgirl here, and yeah, I don't even know what to say. I was trying to think of like something like really like emotional or like profound to say, but here we are, everybody. This has been a moment I have dreamed of for so long. Being a part of like a singles release for Boards of Canada, and I don't even like listening to singles for albums anymore. Usually, like I only usually do this for like the weekend really. I just gotta stop listening to singles for other albums and other artists a little while ago. But for this, it's Boards of Canada. So, like I don't need to explain much about why we're doing this. But like genuinely, like it has been like a dream of mine to like experience this moment where it's like, of course like the entire album is what I'm most excited for, but to get like that first like yeah, of course, we've had like tape 5 and like, like they have a snippet and like, the title announcement video and the release date announcement. But like the first like official, release like from the album, and we get to really dive into the world fully in a lot of ways now. I'm just so excited to experience this with my amazing viewers. And so thank you all for watching this. If you are, let's just get into it. So I didn't make a video talking about it. So to just say this briefly, we'll talk about this a lot more in depth, I think, once the actual album comes out. But the title, the cover, Inferno, I remember I woke up and my best friend sent it to me, and they were like, Violet, wake the fuck up. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, like I was not expecting that kind of cover at all. Like the title to me does make a lot of sense, but the cover it is so much more like, I think it's like the text obviously is like the main thing, because like aesthetics wise it looks like a Boards of Canada cover in my personal opinion, but the text and everything, it's so like bold and in your face and direct, and I was like, wow, this is definitely going to be what I'm assuming is their most aggressive album yet. And the Inferno title is such an interesting concept because, like, of course, Inferno stuff has been explored in literature and the arts for a very, very long time. I think that obviously goes without saying. But this one is so interesting because, as we talked about in my previous videos, this album does very much seem like it's going to be exploring, how we got here and how we're stuck in this place and how do we get out of it. And Inferno, when you look, of course, at the story of Inferno, is about how do we get out of here, but also how did we get here. And so I say to myself that it's like, wow, okay, so we're going to be exploring that in like a sense of what's happened in the last few decades when it comes to like institutions and religions and cults and generational trauma, I feel. But now I'm especially so interested in it because the first two tracks here are, the first one is a very, very heavy religious reference. I believe, you know what, I'm gonna look up how to pronounce this quickly because I don't want to mess this up. Okay, so according to Google, it is Introit. So thank you, Google.com. Much appreciated. So I'm just so interested because Introit is very, very much, it's a very simplified explanation, of course, and understanding of it, but it's the beginning of like a worship type service in like religious settings that involves like a hymn or like like a like chant in a lot of senses, and there's like a, it's like the beginning of like a worship service, and so opening up the album with that, but then prophecy at 1420 megahertz, that I think is also very interesting because of course like prophecy and stuff like that, I'm just looking at my notes quick in case people are wondering what I'm looking at. But prophecy, if you think about it, of course like prophecy is sort of like a message that comes from within or like a spiritual sense, and of course like maybe like even the holy sense, and so of course that all kind of ties together with some like connecting with something that's far beyond you but is at a negative influence, because like the main thing that I have been talking about in my analysis work on this project so far is that it seems like this entire project is about connecting with something that is bigger and bigger than you, that's a negative, and now you're trying to connect with like your truer self but from like a universal type perspective, in terms of like understanding in like a cosmos type setting, which I do feel like is somewhat supported with this because, of course, 100, 1,420 megahertz, has, you know, multiple meanings of like, you know, the wow signal, which does you with like, you know, like extraterrestrial life. You know, the main thing you know, you see and stuff when you look it up is also, you know, about how it's like the frequency of like the neutral atomic hydrogen, which I'm going to look at this up quickly on here because I want to make sure that I get this part right specifically. The thing that's interesting with the neutral hydrogen atom is that it is the most common thing that you can find out in like the universe in like a cosmos type sense. And so I do think it is so interesting how we're talking about a prophecy and something that is like a message from like beyond, or you know, just something that is like, it's just it speaks for something that is bigger than all of us in a sense, but also just as internalized and personalized. But we're talking about that happening at a level and with something that is the most common type of thing you can find in like the universe. It's going to be really interesting seeing how this all sounds, you know, especially because the third track, which of course I'm not going to listen to today, you know, talks about, you know, like hydrogen, you know, like helium, lithium, and like, I cannot pronounce that either. I used to know how to, because that's a title of a movie. What is that? I'm going to make sure I look this up. Leviathan. Okay. Thank you again, Google. And then again, like, it's also talking about like age of like Capricorn, and just like a lot of like, things about like elements and like the universe and like signs and stuff like that. Like there just is like a lot of really interesting things happening here, I can tell, with like the universe and how we even were created, maybe potentially, you know, like, you know, if we're talking about like, you know, like prophecy to hunt, you know, 1420 megahertz, you know, go back to stuff like the Milky Way and like, you know, the common, like, you know, most common like type of element out there, you know, it's like I really like, I think they are tackling extremely complex grand ideas, but I can tell already that it seems very focused, and so I think that's really commendable. But listen, we have yapped enough. We have talked enough. Let's just do this. I cannot believe I'm about to press play. I'm gonna, okay, yeah, I have this turned up as loud as I can. It's actually interesting because this is kind of like a throwback for me, you know, not just because I'm finally doing a reaction in this room again, but I'm actually using the receiver that I used for my after hours reactions, like, God, 6 years ago now, 6.5 years ago now. And we got like the more like, you know, just traditional lighting in here. And so I don't know, it just like, you know, it feels good to be back here and, you know, kind of going back to, you know, how we kind of began in a sense. The reason why I have that old receiver back is that the other receiver I was using, I think it was a combination of my speakers cannot handle a receiver that powerful. But also this one that I have can do high res lossless encoding properly with the DAC that's in there. And I do care about that. So that's how I'm rocking with that. But I digress, everybody. Let's stop being a little gear nerd, I guess, or gearhead, whatever they call it. And let's get into this. Alrighty, everybody. Let's just finally get into this. I cannot believe this is happening. I'm also so excited too that it's the first two tracks, because Boards of Canada, in my personal opinion, have the best album openers of all time. Like I. It's crazy how good they always are. Tomorrow's Harvest is my personal favorite opening by then, with Gemini and Reach for the Dead, if anyone was curious. But I think all of them are like perfect. So I'm very interested in hearing how this sounds. And so yeah, so let's just do this. I just cannot believe I'm about to press play on this. But I've talked so much, I think people probably just want to see the reaction if they've watched the entire thing by now, which I do appreciate if you do, thank you. And so let's just get into this. I don't know much about these besides someone commented on a post that I made that it sounds like 80s dark wave, which is extremely intriguing. And I know there are some vocal stuff on Prophecy at 1420 megahertz. Or 1420 megahertz. Is that how I should pronounce it? I don't know. We'll figure it out later on. Let's just get into this. Okay, here we go, everybody. I can't believe I press play. Okay, here we go. I'm like so nervous. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, I can't. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. That arpeggio is really nice. Okay. Kind of sounds like more Garson a little bit. Oh shit. Oh, okay, we're going right into it then, okay. Got some jazz influence on this? Okay, okay. I was about to say, I'm like, is that a saxophone? Whoa, whoa. Oh, that is not at all what I was expecting, okay. 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 How like it stops and like each time like there's like a slight new element that gets added. It seems like, oh my god, okay. Oh yeah, fuck it up, Mega Marcus, yeah. Interesting. They always have so much movement in their songs, but this one is like interesting because it feels more like staggered, but like it's. Oh my, what the fuck?
The truth is sunshine. The question of reality, consciousness. I am God, the ultimate resonance. The spirit and the soul inside you.
What the hell? This does have a dark wave influence. Oh my god.
Seek consciousness, ultimate nothingness. The absolute truth.
This is not at all what I was expecting, but that's not a bad thing. That soundscape at the end is so good. Interesting. That is very different than what I thought it was going to be. Not a bad thing, obviously, but wow, okay then. I think the thing I'm most curious about is what the vocals were. Let me see if by any chance someone has transcribed them, decoded them, whatever word y'all want to use. Okay, so Genius.com, my go-to, of course, for all of this stuff. Shout out to Genius. Okay, so it says here that the vocals that come in, but like midway through, it's and nothingness comes to the greater awareness of itself, the divine intellect. I am the truth, the dissension, the question of reality, consciousness. I am God, the ultimate renaissance, the spirit. I am the soul of the psyche, unconscious, the transcendence force, seat of consciousness, power. It is, in a sense, the religion of the modern world, the scientific view of nature, syncret. I thought I was gonna get that one, but I didn't quite get there. Consciousness has operational effect, cause and effect, nothingness, the absolute truth. Okay, I think I know how to explain my thoughts on this finally. I've tried to explain this like a few times already on camera, but I keep like restarting, but I think I finally got it. To just read the entire thing. So, and nothingness comes to the greater awareness of itself, the divine intellect. What I think, a lot of it is very direct and straightforward. Of course, but I also feel as if like this album is really going to take us on a journey where it's like exploring, as I have talked about in my previous videos, like trying to like, like escape where we are because you don't want to be in it anymore, and like reaching out like far beyond than you ever have before. But a lot of that only happens when you've reached like your rock bottom and like a literal like inferno type setting on like an emotional level or like a physical type level. And so, and nothing just comes to greater awareness of itself, because like in those moments when you're in like this post-apocalyptic like hell type setting, there does come a understanding and sense of oneself that you never quite get before. There's a sophistication and a nuance and complexity to it that does come from being in places like that, in states like that. And so the divine intellect, and so yeah, it's like this like divine like holy type force that is being felt, and like how it influences like your understanding and processing and perspective on things and just oneself. And so again, like I am the truth, the dissension, the question of reality, consciousness. I am God, the ultimate renaissance, the spirit. Like I am the soul of the psyche, unconscious, the transcendence force. Like it's talking all right here about questioning one's reality and like how do we get here. And it's this, and like like the part about like I am God is so interesting, because it's like I am the truth, and it's like actually it's interesting. It's like I am the truth, the essential question of reality, consciousness, and then it goes to I am God, the ultimate renaissance, the spirit. I am the soul of the psyche, unconscious, the transcendence force. And it's like, so it's like I am the soul of the psyche, yes, like unconscious. So it's like it's saying like straightforward like what it's trying to like explain with like I'm the truth, which like then you question your entire reality and what like you thought that you knew what the world was like. But it's like then I am God, like this like ultimate force, and it's like this ultimate like spirit. And it's like the most like profound type of experience in a sense. And then it's like and then there it becomes like the soul of like the psyche, and like unconscious, the transcendence force, like seat of consciousness. So it's like, so the soul of the psyche, unconscious, the transcendence force, seat of consciousness, power. It is in a sense the religion of the modern world, the scientific view of nature, synchronat. I cannot pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Consciousness has operational effect, cause and effect, nothingness, absolute truth. Yeah, so it's like saying and I mean it's basically essentially like laying out like what the prophecy is in a lot of senses for the entire album and what we're going to explore theme wise. But it's also like as a listener laying out to you so clearly what we're talking about. And this part, the part I heard this so interesting is like it is in a sense the religion of the modern world, like seat of consciousness, power. Yes, this makes so much sense, because it's about like understanding one's place in the world in a holy sense, like from within. And like it is in a sense the vision of the modern world, because like I feel like a lot of times in like these religious type settings, they try to remove your, as I said, your own sense of individuality, but also like consciousness. Like that's such a great way of putting it. And so it's like taking back the power in that, and like being able to like rest upon this place of like understand, like being one with oneself again fully. And it is in a sense a religion of the modern world. because like, you know, things, you know, progress and change. But it is so interesting because it's about like how do we move forward from the places that have gotten us stuck here. And the scientific view of nature, the synchronatic, I cannot, I'm just gonna stop saying that because I can't say that word clearly. Consciousness has operational effect, cause and effect, nothingness, the absolute truth. So consciousness has operational effect, cause and effect, nothingness, the absolute truth. Yeah, so it's like consciousness has operational effect. Yeah, cause and effect, nothingness, the absolute truth. It's like we've gotten ourselves to a place where there is like a nothingness, and it's like trying to figure out in a scientific type place, an analytic type place, like how did we get here and how do we move forward. Like if I'm interpreting that correctly, I'm sure it's more complicated than that, and I'm definitely missing probably some details, but that is so interesting. And then this one, production wise and instrumentally, is so fascinating, you know, because like the intro, Introit, like it's this really gorgeous like arpeggio type piece that like it does sound like, you know, like vintage words of Canada, but then it very quickly progresses into, you know, like utilizations of like saxophones and sub bass, and then you get this very staggered type progression and movement and within the song. And it's interesting because like it always like it kind of sounds like to me it's like starting to progress and then it stops and it's like trying to like cling on to something more and more, but it's like it's struggling like to get there. And then you have like the prophecy piece come in, and then at the end, like the last minute, it like fades out into this like soundscape and this like sound of like understanding like where to go from here. That's how I kind of interpret it. And the soundscape is gorgeous, and like I love the chords that come in, you know, and that part also. There's the thing about Birds of Canada production wise that has always really inspired me is that I find it so cool how they have a signature sound to their, specifically like their, you know, their chords and uses of like synthesizers and keyboards, but they always like contextualize them and interpret them in a lot of different ways from album to album. And this one, it seems like they're doing it again. And also, one thing I want to say too is that one thing that I feel like I wish I have talked about more throughout the years with like, you know, my friends, you know, and stuff like that, or with people with Birds of Canada that I want to finally acknowledge now, is that each project, like there's some similarities of course, you know, but like I feel like their drums on each project have their own like signature sound to them. Like I feel like it's not like very like I feel like when I listen to like Nothing Is Real from Tomorrow's Harvest, like yeah, like the drums on that like kind of remind me a little bit of some stuff that you could have heard like music to children perhaps, like, you know, in my personal kind of, you know, interpretation of it. But it's like I also feel like that like the vast like majority of it is really like giving in its own really unique like sound and style, but how they like, you know, like compose the drums and how they interject them and how they also introduce them is always so unique. And so you can tell they're challenging themselves with the song progressions and the uses of melodies and chords and soundscapes, and you know, and really going for something that as a listener makes you feel a little bit on the edge, because it's like it keeps having this like stuttering type effect to it. But like again with like the drums, like it also is creating this like new world for us to sort of like have like a meditative type like sense. And because like I talked to this like years ago on my own channel, but part of why electronic music is by far my favorite genre of music and why I've made electronic music myself is that it is the most meditative genre in my opinion. Like not just like ambient music, but I think a lot of like, you know, things like house music and techno music, you know, like drum and bass type stuff, like you know, like I really genuinely feel that a lot of it is incredibly meditative, because as a listener you get locked onto certain ideas or like rhythms or like structures within songs, and from that like you latch on an emotional connection and understanding of like okay what you love about the song. Because like I don't think it's bad like having, you know, like things that have like a more traditional type of structure in terms of songwriting. I love that type of stuff a lot actually. But I also really do really admire, and I do connect more so with stuff like this, where it's like it does have a quality to it that as a listener, like you're able to put a lot of your own interpretation on into it. And that to me is like a meditative type sense, because you're understanding your own emotions and perspective on the music like more than ever. Hopefully I explained that well. I maybe didn't, but it's a work in progress, I suppose. Wow, there's just a lot of process with this. I'm very interested in seeing how this album reaction goes, y'all, because like this was very different than I thought it was gonna be. So I am starting to really wonder like how this album's gonna flow, because we've heard now the opening to the album. We've heard tape 5, which I'm assuming is on the project. We've heard the snippet from the video announcing the title and the release date, which had similar to tape 5, like a good use of like sub bass, and it had this like ominous, like dooming type quality to it. And Introit on this, like it had this like glimmery, like shiny, like hopeful type feel, but it then like so quickly was like nope. And it's like okay. And so yeah, I'm just so interested in hearing like what this album fully sounds like. It really does seem like this might be their most ambitious work, honestly, which is really, really admirable and impressive, because I love how they've always challenged themselves, but this one it seems like they're really doing something that they haven't quite done before. And I'm really, really grateful to be here for this and to document all of this. And so yeah, I guess to say it because I haven't said it, I definitely like this. I definitely like it. I think this needs a lot more listens to fully process all of it, and so I definitely am going to listen to this like throughout the next like, gosh, this album comes out what, like in 3 weeks or so? Yeah, which is crazy. And so I guess we'll get back then. And there's also a music video that I really want to watch, because the director of it, I'm a big fan of. I love the stuff that he's done with The Weeknd and One of Tricks Point Never in the past, and so I want to check that out also. And so I'm really interested in seeing where we go from here. Yeah, no, I definitely am down for all of this. And so yeah, so that's that. I would say more, but there's just a lot to process, because I mean this is just like a first reaction. So I'll leave it there for now. I like it a lot, and I'm interested in seeing how I feel about it in a few weeks or so when we do the full album. I can now just see you all in a few weeks. Very, very excited. Please leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to talk with all of you about this. So until then, everybody, take care of yourselves, and I'll see y'all on May 29th, unless anything else happens up until then. Yeah, just woo!